Good.
Oh, whoa. Okay, good.
Good morning and welcome to Mystery Book Club. I'm Sally Hanley, author of the Holly and Ivy Cozy Mystery Series. And our book today is the remarkable novel, Those We Thought We Knew, written by a young man named David Joy, a 12th generation North Carolinian. I met David at a panel of Southern writers at the Greenville Library last fall, and I picked up this book, and I am amazed. I found it extremely moving and a very important book that I don't think has gotten enough attention in today's world, and I think it's something that should be read because in my opinion, this author is extremely gifted at presenting both sides in such a powerful way uh, that it's going to give us a lot to talk about today. So, um, the first, I want to start with like the very first conversation that Sheriff Coggins has with our main character, Toya Gardner, after what is known as the inciting incident, when she creates this art piece in which she digs up graves on the college campus overnight. And for me, this was the first of many continual references of the different perspectives that people have. And Toya says, when she's talking about why she did this in the site, she said, they bulldozed a Cherokee mound and raised a black church. Those are the things that the school chose to move when they were building a new building. And he says, I don't know anything about that. That was a long time ago. And she said, go sit with some of the people at that church and ask them to tell you the stories they grew up hearing. I think you'd feel different. It's like they say, an open wound cannot heal. And he says, I'd say you've opened it up pretty good. And she replies, and I'd say it's been open the whole time. Just the people with the power to do something about it never bothered to look. And so I'd like to know your opinion of David Joy's use of that approach throughout the book, and if there were other moments in the book like this one that spoke to you.
Well, I will say I haven't, I mean, it's been about a month since I read it, and I didn't think in terms of commenting specifically on his approach. The reason that I loved the book was just his use of words. I mean, it's the kind of writing like, oh shoot, the Covenant of Water, the the Indian writer. And if anybody has read S.A. Cosby, have you read any of those?
I have not.
Well, he's a black writer, writes crime type things, but it's not so much what he writes or like who's the other one? It's the way that they write that just sort of sucks you in. And I thought that's what David's was. I mean, from the first line, it took how many hours to dig the graves, and you're thinking, oh my God, that's so.
Right. And there's a point where he talks about the murder of crows flying across the sky, or when he describes the mountains. His writing is exquisite. It's beautiful, and it really is evocative of the place, right?
Definitely.
It's also an interesting topic, and that's always current.
Right.
These are things that we should be thinking about.
Exactly. Exactly.
But my disappointment was of course, I wanted her to live.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, yeah,
I wanted her to triumph, but I also wanted her to, be around to enjoy the triumphs.
Did you feel as shocked by her murder as I mean, I was not expecting that.
Right.
I wasn't either.
I found it like,
Wasn't
oh
shocked.
my God, I can't believe somebody killed her. Uh, yeah, that was shocking. And you're right. You wanted this character to live, but you know, I think that there was no other way to do this without really hitting the issue. You know, there are many people who are opposed to the Black Lives Movement, right? They come back with this, all lives
They're
matter.
against police.
Right. But the bottom line is, Black people do get, I mean, if you go back to lynchings and that are referred to in this book as well, it's like they are more likely to end up murdered in a confrontation than white people are.
Right.
By their own, unfortunately, by other blacks, because sometimes it's a crime of opportunity.
Right, right,
You know, and when you're in a poor area, it's not so much the color as the poor areas that they're living in
right,
and conditions.
right, right. Exactly. Um, another passage that spoke to me, or that really was brilliant in uh, describing the way that Southerners look at the flag. Now, this is on page 121. So he has come home after speaking with Bess, the grandmother of Toya, and um, he, she says to him, "So, what does the flag mean to you?" And he says, uh, "It's about heritage. It's about being proud of who you are, who and where you come from." I think about that statue and I think about that photograph of its dedication and how my great great grandfather is standing there with his chest stuck out and his eyes hollowed from what he'd seen and done. And I'm not saying that war didn't have nothing to do with slavery, because it most surely did. It did. But it couldn't have been just that. It couldn't have been, because that man in that picture was barely clearing enough from farming to keep food in his stomach, and he'd done that beating with his own hands to a pulp. So what was he fighting for? What did he load up and go? I think that that was like brilliant to describe the fact that not all Southerners were slave owners, and they weren't
Right.
fighting for slavery. They were fighting for something else. They were fighting for, um, I guess, the integrity of their land. Patty, you're a Southerner. Uh,
No, I'm from Pittsburgh.
oh, oh, I thought you.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh,
I'm,
that's so funny. I have always thought of you. You have acquired a Southern accent.
Oh, no, I've been 40 years here.
That's why. That's why. Okay. So, you know, he kept the Southern, the Confederate flag on his truck. And I mean, this hits you. Okay. The war was not just about slavery. It was about the integrity of their land. They were fighting for their state, where they lived, their heritage. And then he says what he says, "Well, here's what she told me. Here's what she said, Evie. To defend that flag is an act of white supremacy. That's what the girl said. And for a whole lot of folks, she's probably right. Surely that's what it means to a whole lot of people. There's folks flying that flag ain't ever stepped foot in the South. So what in the world are they doing that for? What in the world does it mean to them?" And you know, like I think this is one of the reasons why I was shocked that Coggins was the guilty party at the end, because he seemed to understand in this moment what this girl was fighting, what she was trying to, what statement she was trying to make with these art exhibits, and by defacing the Confederate statue. Uh, uh, and then he says, let's see. Suddenly, but here's where it brings us back. Suddenly, there were all these thoughts and feelings tumbling around inside him that he'd never considered and never felt until then. And maybe that was the crux of what that girl had been saying. Maybe that's what she meant by forcing someone to confront an idea. All he knew was that the whole thing made him uncomfortable, and that more than anything was what had set him on fire. It was the discomfort. So, I mean, this is one of the big issues with removing Black history books from the shelves of libraries, that's going on. It's like, we don't want to make anybody feel uncomfortable, right? We don't want our children to feel
Right.
guilty. And this reminded me, and I'm talking too much. I'm not giving anybody a chance. So just tell me when to shut up. But remember, we read the book about the Jewish sisters who were trying to find the
Or,
the painting
Yeah.
that had been taken by the Nazis that belonged to
Right.
their grandmother. And the topic was about inherited trauma. And I thought, yeah, that's what everybody here on both sides are experiencing, this inherited trauma. But if you ignore it, if you pretend it didn't happen, where does that take you? Right?
Well, I always thought that the flag, it never bothered me because I thought it was just part of history.
There you go.
That's all I ever took it for, even after I moved down here. But you can't erase history, so I don't understand.
Right. Well, who did any of you get to watch the clips that I sent the links to? I mean, one of the things that David Joy said, now he graduated from high school in 2002, so I didn't do the math to figure out, but he's a young man, and he said, um, in his life growing, they were taught in the South. If you went to school in the South, you were taught that the war was not about slavery.
Well, they did that up north too. They said it was about money.
It was about states' rights.
There you
Okay.
go. That's what they were. Yeah, that's what they were saying. That it's about
Which
states'
is
rights.
true. It's true. It was, I mean, it was the right for the South to do what they wanted to do.
Right, to
Okay.
have slaves.
Right.
That's what it was. But I think the driving force was the issue of slavery.
That
Uh,
was the first time I ever saw a different interpretation of what the flag or the statues meant, which I thought was really profound.
I think it must have been also in those clips that he mentioned, because where else would I have learned this, that during the period of Reconstruction after slavery was abolished, the daughters of the American Revolution are the ones who went out, not the daughters of the American, yeah, no, the daughters of,
I think it was the DAR.
well, they went around and they built these monuments to Confederate,
No, it couldn't have been them.
no,
yeah, that's right, daughters of the,
would not have been.
I don't
yeah,
know.
all I know is it was these women's group that went around and raised the money to build these statues and monuments to Confederate soldiers and leaders of the Confederacy. So, there, and what David Joyce says is the vice president of the Confederacy, whose name I don't remember, and that's what he said. Most people don't even know who he was. 2 years after the abolition of slavery, he was the governor of Georgia. And he said, what did that tell everybody? Nothing's changed. We're, and then that's when the Jim Crow laws came in and all of this occurred. So, yeah, but the flag, the idea of the flag was interesting. And it was the year that I moved here to South Carolina when the Confederate flag was removed from the State House in South Carolina. And I saved the paper and I still have it on my bulletin board because I thought that was such a profound moment. And the question is, what does that flag mean to you? But even Sheriff Coggins recognized that there were people who never set foot in the South waving that flag. Why?
Rebel. It's
Yeah, you had
the
to
rebel
acknowledge,
flag.
right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
a lot of these, they interpret it in a different way.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And it is a flashpoint for white supremacists, right? I mean that's the flag that they're waving. Now let's talk
I
about
don't think it's necessarily true that they're white supremacists. Some of them, I don't think, realize the total meaning of it.
Right.
well,
Younger generation.
You're not necessarily talking about bright people sometimes.
Oh,
I mean, you got to remember, you're thinking of it logically and
right. And with a backdrop of history that
right.
not everybody has.
how
And
about redneck?
well, you know,
Different breed. You're right.
I don't want to see, yeah, I don't want to resort to name calling, although saying somebody's a white supremacist, I suppose, is name calling also. But you're right, Darlene. Some people may just view it as like, an in your face kind of thing. Like a young person doesn't know anything, just knows it's a, it's a, we're going to stick it to somebody, like they're angry.
Or I'm proud to be a Southerner.
Right, right.
They did.
But what about somebody who's never been in the South and who's carrying the Confederate flag? They're doing it out of a sense of some misguided sense of rebellion. But
Yeah.
the bottom line is, I would say for most Black people, their reaction is that this is a symbol of slavery.
Right.
And
It's an affront to them.
right, right. Now the Vess and Toya are such strongly drawn characters. I you have to love Vess, the grandmother. And here's one passage I had underlined, and she said there was part of her that was proud of what her granddaughter had done, but there was also worry and fear. And then uh, I know when I was younger, I was brave to be outspoken, like I wasn't worried about anything happening to me if I, rocked the boat where I worked or where I, in a conversation with people. Now, not so much. The older you get, you just like, oh God. But but the bottom line is there's also another passage that I'll get to eventually, which is like we can step back and stay out of it. And that is part of our privilege, being white. You can just back away from this and say, well, it's not going to affect me, whatever's happening out there, that these bad things that are happening. But
Or you can say, I did my bit. Now it's time for
yeah,
the younger generation.
Yeah.
yeah.
I like that.
Yes, I truly do feel that way because if the younger generation, it's their world, what's being shaped now is going to be their world, and if they don't see that and they don't see they have any place, then I don't, I'm not going to be around for, so
I don't mean that we can totally step back, but I think you look more closely at
Yeah.
what position you're going to put yourself in. You're not going to be running in front of cars when you're demonstrating.
yeah, yeah.
I'll hold my sign back here,
Yeah. Safely on the sidewalk.
safely.
I
I
thought
get
I saw somebody in the corner.
you. Um, did you fear for Toya from the beginning?
Yes.
Yeah, I
Yes.
did.
She had risky behavior
Now,
that would incite people,
Yeah,
like
She was
large
in-
groups of people. She was in an area where it was not welcomed at all.
That's what I was going to say. She was in a very confined, small town.
yeah.
So,
she was
And-
gonna be protected
Hmm.
for some reason.
Well, I think, well, the thing is, you could admire her taking a stand, but at the same time, you're fair. Well, that's what another quote from the grandmother, that she looked at her with a fearless certainty that the old woman found hard to fathom. The girl had a fearless certainty that she was right and that this was the right thing to do. And it may have been, but it cost her her life. Um, so let's talk a little bit about the conversation when Coggins comes to visit Vess. Okay. He had a strong friendship with her husband. And he just was so bothered by what Toya was doing, and he had to come talk to Vess. And do you remember when she talked about coming into her kitchen and there was a snake in the box and she didn't know it, and she opened the box and then she kind of said uh, people like to think racism looks a certain way. And she said, but like whether you look in the box or you don't, the snake's still there,
Oh, yeah, yeah, that was great.
right? And I thought, oh my God, yeah. And the thing is, Coggins truly is bewildered that Vess and her husband, who was his friend, would have, were victims of any type of racism, right? He said, like we all got along. But Vess tells him about, when the husband would go to do his job at people's houses, women wouldn't let him in the house until their husbands came home from work. It's a very subtle thing. It's not in your face, it's not violent, but it's an undeniable, you're not good enough to come in my house, you're not trustworthy, you are beneath me.
Right.
Uh the the other thing, well, there was another example I think that she had given.
Excuse me a moment.
Oh, when they had the name of the area had been Nigger Skull Road, right? And when they changed the name because it was finally acknowledged as being offensive, there were people that said, I know who would be offended by that. Of course, that was a white person who couldn't understand, it's always been called that. Why would we need to change that name? And the fact that you couldn't even understand why that would be offensive says everything, right? It means that it's the snake in the box. You don't see it, but it's there. It's always there. So I think that, like this was brilliant writing in just so many ways. Yeah, his use of language is brilliant, but the 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 dynamic of the characters and the conversations between them were so powerful in communicating things that, you know, especially as a white person, that you never maybe really thought too much about.
So
Now, go ahead.
sorry, I was gonna say, I didn't realize Patty was on the phone. That particular passage, I don't know, do you watch The Big Bang Theory?
Yeah.
Okay, you know, the story about what is it? Schrodinger's box. There's a cat in the box. And as long as you don't open the box, you don't know whether the cat is alive or dead.
Oh, yeah.
When I read that passage about the snake, that's all I could think of was, you
Yeah.
know, you
Yeah.
don't know about it until you don't know what's there until you open it.
And yeah, and you don't have to acknowledge anything bad if you don't know about it. Yeah. Now, another thing that to me was interesting, the characters that were interesting were the younger police people in this story. You had Ernie Allison, who is the one who discovers the Ku Klux Klan robe and sheet and a list of names in the car of
Sorry, it was a dentist.
Willie Cawthorn, right? He discovers the and Ernie Allison goes back to look at the car, and the list and all these things have been removed. And so he goes to Coggins, his boss. And Coggins' reaction is, "You're lucky I don't suspend you." And he ends that conversation with him saying, "What do you want me to do?"
Yeah.
Right? And I thought, this is at the point where you're still thinking like is Coggins also is a character caught between a rock and a hard place, right? Because he's got to uphold the law. And yet, you know, I know, well, Darlene, you're a police person. You've got to go on facts, not you could say not because you can't arrest somebody because somebody says, "Well, I saw he threatened me." You can't just arrest somebody, you know, you have to have proof, you have to have evidence, you have to have something to go on.
To have probable cause
Oh,
to believe more than not that they committed that crime.
Exactly. Well, and then here's where the snake is coming out of the box, isn't it? For
yeah.
Coggins, because now this girl has set in motion things beyond which, like her, he could deal with. But once these other, once you set the Ku Klux Klan and other people in motion, once you rile them up, now he's got to deal with it. But what is he supposed to do?
Sally,
Yeah.
I had to leave before, but I wanted to make a comment about Coggins and his relationship with Bess and the husband. I think that he had put them in their place, and that they were just going to be like that. You know what I mean? I mean, he
Yeah.
just thought of them in their place, and they weren't going to act up or be belligerent to him because they were his friends.
They were his friends. They all got along. He never saw what he didn't have to see what slights they went through or how people might have mistreated them.
Right.
He didn't have to see that, but which is why he didn't understand. They were good friends. They got along. He didn't understand why they would be upset.
Right. And I don't think he cared to either. You know,
Well, again, we don't want to, nobody wants to open the snake box,
Right.
right? Nobody. I wouldn't for sure, right? So there's a point at which a man named Rupert Bates visits Coggins after, you know, like they bring Toya in the jail, but then they let her out because the college isn't going to press charges, just like she expected. And Rupert says, you might should have kept that girl locked up for her own good. And right there, I mean, that's a threat, but what's he supposed to do? You know, what's he supposed to do? It's a veiled threat. Um, so then what happens to Ernie? The Ku Klux Klan gets him, beats him within an inch of his life, and leaves him under a burning cross. Now, this is, yeah, the whole town is
An uproar.
you know cut in two with everybody against one another. Now, but you've got the younger policeman feels like I think that this is the whole thing. You can see what the younger generation now in the white community, the younger people, they too don't see necessarily, but they know racism when they see it, right? And they feel like something should be done. Coggins, he's got the folks coming to him and go, you should have done that, or else. What's he supposed to do? But the younger generation is like, something, shouldn't we be doing something? Okay. Now,
Wasn't school out though at that time? I'm trying to remember.
Yeah,
yeah, it's the summer.
yeah.
It's
Yeah.
the
So
summer.
a lot of the students and the young people were not there.
Right. But I'm just talking about the younger policeman,
Oh,
right? The younger policeman, Ernie, he feels like that list of names with this Ku Klux Klan garment in the back of this Willie Cawthorn's truck when they arrest him, it should be looked into. And this is an example of where Coggins, he doesn't want to do anything about that,
Yeah.
right? It's just like, what am I supposed to do? Now,
well, it's not even just the issue of black and white. He's also a formidable, could be a formidable enemy
Yeah.
right,
because he has substance. So you would hesitate to question someone like that in the
right,
community that has such a high standing.
right, right.
So he had a double whammy there.
Um, the other characters, wait, I'm trying to look up where I've got, you've got Willie Dean Cawthorn. He's the rabble-rousing Ku Klux Klan member who just shows up. And that he's found sleeping in his car, and that's how they arrest him. That's how
Yeah.
Ernie arrests him. And then you've got Slade Ash. And I want to read you one of the passages that like just kind of chilled me. Well, there are two actually. On page 41, uh, he says Cawthorn wants to be out there burning crosses and like Ryland, harassing blacks the way they did before the civil rights movement. Okay. And Slade Ash says the goal of our organization might be the same as it's always been, but the mechanisms changed. The days of spray painting slurs on churches or prancing around at rallies are behind us. The mechanism has changed. It's business deals. We're altering the political landscape. See, the thing about it is, all these people in these houses want the very same things we do. They just don't want to speak it loud. And who can blame them? You get a lot more done in the peace and quiet. You get a whole lot more accomplished when there's not 1,000 eyes watching every move you make. White power is not just some catchphrase, son, some hollow slogan you get tattooed on your back. No, it's the real thing as it's a real thing as the shine on your boots. White power is as tangible a thing as this chair I'm sitting in, as this house. So that's the first encounter when he tries to calm this guy down and say, we're not going to be, we're going to do everything behind the scenes, which is kind of what they do. And then they go off and nearly kill Ernie Coggins in the dark of night. But later on, this passage is the one he says once again. So while everyone is crowded around the statue, yelling back and forth at each other like a bunch of children, I'll be behind this desk doing the work because that's the real battleground. That's where the war is fought and won on a small scale. It's town boards, the county commission, law enforcement, and every one of those things stands to make me money. But on a larger scale, it's Congress, it's the White House, and that's what you're too stupid or short-sighted to see. So the days of lynching people and burning crosses is over. But what he's saying, and I think we're seeing a lot of that today in our in the political system today. You got a lot of people, well, removing black books from school districts. You've got people on school boards,
Taking apart the Smithsonian.
yeah, they're gonna rewrite history the way
Right.
yeah, it's like 1984-ish, but it's just really World War II, because I saw a clip on um Facebook recently where this young woman went through the history of Adolf Hitler and his trajectory, and he did everything that is being done right now.
Yeah,
Uh,
that Mondami wants to do.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. It's
Oh.
Well,
it's
they talked in the um, prior to the election about Trump having Mein Kampf on his bedside table.
well, there you go. There you go.
And
And
you believed it.
and well, it's like when I see these
You know, there was an FBI guy that very high up in the FBI that I was friendly with, and he said he reads a lot. He had all these communist newspapers. I said, "How come you're reading so much about communism?" He says, "You have to know your enemy."
yeah, well, there you
Oh,
go.
jeez.
So there's a lot of reason why people read different types of
Yeah,
books.
yeah.
Also,
Well, that's true, because otherwise you think the world's, like all from your perspective, and you really
Yeah.
do need to hear how other people think. And that's probably why we're so polarized in this country at this point, because we're getting, you know, us, and it does bother me a little bit now, because I keep getting fed everything on Facebook that I already believe in. And I think I never,
Yeah.
and I refuse to watch the news anymore because I just can't sleep at night when I do. So I'm not hearing the other side. So you're absolutely right. We need to know our enemies.
Well, I think
But
that's why you go back and forth between different news stations, because
Yeah.
some, MSNBC is a lot different than watching Fox or Owned. What is it, OAN? You
yeah,
know,
Right.
you have to know
Amazing.
what they're hearing.
well, there you go. But I think
Right.
it's very interesting that this white supremacist movement that Slade Ash, the character who's, like the moving force behind that, is they're focused on a political electing people who are going to do exactly what we
Right.
see doing done right now, which is like, erase Black history, do away with social programs to help the poor, uh, even attack the education system. as being too liberal, attack schools and teachers because an educated populace is a danger to an authoritarian regime. So I think that was one of the scariest revelations in here. But like a clear-sighted look, this is how we do things now, and we're going to be much more successful at it. So uh let me see, what else have I got here? How we doing? Oh, we talked a lot, or I've talked a lot, I think.
Well,
So
thanks for doing all that background and
Yeah,
putting together what the key points were, because
yeah, you forget, and when you put so
if
I
you
had to
don't,
go back through my quotes,
right.
but once I reread what I underlined, it was very easy for me to zoom in on what it was that I wanted to talk about. Um, let's talk about the title of the book, Those We Thought We Knew. I mean, who does that apply to?
Sure.
Yeah, sheriff.
all of them.
But at the end, like that title didn't grab me. And every time I'd want to tell somebody I'm reading a great book, I could never remember the name of it because it was just those
Too
we thought we
long.
knew, right? But
Too
when I
long.
reread it, I thought, oh my God, this applies to almost everybody.
Oh,
Coggins for sure, okay? But look at the younger cops at the end, where you've got the young woman cop, Leah, who's now been put in charge of investigating the cross burning and Ernie's attack, right? And she goes to visit Ernie, who's recovering. He's in bad shape, and she goes to let's see if I've got. I think she knows that Toya's murder is linked to what's happened to Ernie, even though Coggins is trying to
right.
deny that it is. So now let's see. Page 307. Hold on, because this I think this is when she goes to talk to Ernie, and
Okay.
she says, I don't know. I guess there comes a moment you start realizing that keeping your mouth shut's the same thing as nodding your head. See?
Yes.
And then later on, she says, you don't see it because you don't have to. You don't talk about it, and the reason's the same. Then something happens, like Toya Gardner being found, and you've got no choice, though deep down, even then, you wrestle with that desire to close your eyes and plug your ears and let the moment pass. You hold your breath. A minute goes by, the room goes quiet, you forget, you have no reason to relive or remember, and that is the fortune of your hand. And this is what we're talking about in terms of, I mentioned that earlier, the idea of white privilege, which many people are, like they get their hackles up when that phrase is brought up. But it is the privilege of being a white person. You can be upset that somebody like Toya Gardner got killed, or any of the who was the man who was choked to death that really created a big stir.
Floyd,
It started the Black Lives Movement,
George Floyd.
George Floyd, right? You can be horrified about that, but then you step away and it's gone for you. But people living in that neighborhood, what do you think, Darlene?
I don't think that's ever gone. I think I don't care if you're
Ah,
black or white, when somebody is unfairly treated, it's bad,
right.
you know, and it always, for the police who really do their job, it makes it so much difficult for them
Yeah.
to do their job when you have an idiot that's going to do something. You can't do that to people. I mean, that's just not right. regardless of what color, it doesn't matter. You know, to me, and I've seen discrimination both ways, and it's
Right,
it's ugly as far as I'm concerned.
right.
Well, the last one applies to everything that's going on right now with ICE. You know, the lack of um, recognition of the humanity of other people.
And every time you
Well,
pick up,
you want, I mean, you're talking about criminals also?
No, I said the lack of understanding of other people, I think, or the appreciation for what other people might be going through or why they act in a certain way, I think is carries over to today.
you know, I'm always shocked when you read an article every once in a while where some American citizen got picked up. They're of a Hispanic, you know, they were born in the United States. They're an American citizen, and they ended up shipped off somewhere. But you know, here's the thing that like, and this was one of those times where like I just couldn't even watch. My sister tries to talk to me about these things. I go, Mariella, I cannot talk about this because I won't be able to sleep tonight. When you find out that um somebody has been treated that way, and but the thing that got me was that these ICE um uh, I don't know what you call them, what, police, I don't know what they're called, but they
Federal.
wore masks. I said, the only time in the history of the United States that I know anybody ever wore a mask were the Ku Klux Klan. So why are policemen wearing masks?
They're being
Because
attacked.
they'll hurt their families if
Yeah.
they recognize them.
There's more to this than we could ever get
Huh.
into.
Yeah.
Prefer
And
not to,
criminals wear masks
because I have a different opinion, you know.
too.
Yeah,
I
well, no,
respect your opinion,
yeah.
you know, this is how you
I
feel.
didn't think, see, I'm glad you mentioned that because I didn't think about that. I didn't think about the police getting attacked for,
Oh,
or
Time, unfortunately.
yeah.
so we've got a total breakdown of civility so that everybody's scared. Everybody needs to be scared. If they speak up on one side or the other, that you need to be frightened that someone will, you know, I have to admit that I remember back in New Jersey, somebody wanted to put a political sign in my yard, and I thought, no, I'm not putting anybody's, you know, vote for this guy or vote for that guy in my yard because I don't want somebody to kill my dog, you know, or you worry about things like that, and we shouldn't have to. I mean, it. And once again, this is like a different world from the one I grew up in for sure, because I don't remember anybody ever being, but again, maybe just like Coggins, I didn't see it, so I didn't know that there were bad things going on.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's terrifying. It's terrifying that, you know, judges, police, yeah, you're right. They're all in danger if they rule a certain way that doesn't suit somebody who's angry enough to come at them with a gun.
Yeah.
Even the health insurance guys,
Oh my God,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
you know,
That's not funny. I'm sorry.
No, but it
it's,
no, but
it's,
you're absolutely right. That's
God bless.
you look, well, see, this is the whole thing. When you look at both sides, it just it makes you crazy, right? Because you think of a person who you think of how frustrated and how angry a person whose, you know, family member died because they couldn't get the medical care that they needed.
Go to the hospitals. They, have you been to a hospital in the winter? You can't get in.
Oh, wow. Well, you know something? It's my friend's husband. They're in New York. Um, he had eye surgery, so it wasn't anything, you know, life or death. But the doctor actually lamented to them that nowadays, if he um, wanted to prescribe a medication for his patients that he knew they needed because they needed the, preservative free or something like that, he would first have to prescribe the cheapest drug
Yeah.
Yes. That's for us.
and document that they had a bad reaction to it before he could prescribe for them the drug that he knew they need. He said it's soul crushing. It's
Mm.
soul crushing for the doctors. And I read an article where the doctors are being, sole practitioners can't maintain a practice anymore.
Oh, they
They,
buy them out.
I guess there's so much paperwork that they have to pay for so many assistants to help them file the insurance claims and whatnot. They can't afford to stay open. So they sell their practices
Right,
and then they go to work for a corporation and they have 15 minutes to see a patient.
right. They call that the white coat mafia.
Ah, oh my God. So yeah, and yeah, so and so everybody ends up, poor people who don't have insurance, and fewer and fewer are going to have it going forward, they can only go to the emergency room.
Yep.
Yeah, so it's yeah, and yeah. See, I probably won't be able to sleep again tonight.
Oh, Sally, but there's nothing you could do about it. So,
I won't be able to sleep again. So,
Do something fun today.
yeah.
well, it was a very good discussion, but back to, I just want to, I found the pages for the two passages that I thought were beautiful language, David Joy's beautiful language. He said, Bess looked at the sky where a murder of crows passed like ink over the mountain, and their presence struck her as a bad omen. Beautiful, a beautiful image. And then to it, you could tell he is a southerner who loves the land, right? He says the mountains had a strange way of breaking up storms. Sometimes a front might settle over a holler and empty itself completely before breaking apart into heat, lightning, and starlight. Wow. Yeah, I really love this guy. But
Sally, is he black or white?
say that again.
Is he black or white?
He's white. Oh
Okay.
yeah, he's
He
white.
has a great understanding.
Yeah,
Uh,
totally. Totally. He's a bright light for sure in the universe. So, next month we're back to Cozy Mystery Land. I have to tell you, I am such a cozy mystery reader. I can't help myself. Although I had to say, I just recently read the second book in the Ruth Galloway series that we read. And I just love that character, the archaeologist.
Did a
Uh,
good job on that.
yeah. Oh my, the book
Yeah.
two is as good as book one. And in book two, she's pregnant, right? Yeah. Yeah, we discovered that at the end of the first book. So I was dying to know for the longest time, and I finally had a break, and I thought I'm gonna read this book next, and it does not disappoint. So, but we are reading Melissa Westermeyer's book, Old Habits Die Hard, where
yeah.
we've got a nun uh, who is retired, living in an old what had been a school that's been converted into a retirement home. And of course, a murder occurs. And, you know, I don't know, do any of you watch Sister Boniface on public television?
Oh,
No.
It's like the BritBox mysteries, like Father
oh,
Brown and those
oh,
sorts. And I just love her. Uh, um, but it's interesting. I grew up, I was Catholic and grew up going to Catholic school, right? And nuns are a breed unto themselves, and they're like there's a wide range of them, but you have the ones who and I feel like that's how this character is, just somebody who's always got to be involved. She's got to know what's going on. She's got to be, she's got to be, she's got to be involved. And so, yeah, she's an interesting character and the story is interesting. So I hope you enjoy it. And that's it for, we're at 1 o'clock exactly, ladies. Thank
So,
you for
welcome.
joining me and for participating in discussion, for reading the book, because I think it's an important one. Spread the word. Tell people,
I do.
you know, this is a book to be read. I think it gives everybody something to think about, and it gives you uh, both sides of the story.
Loved it.
Bye.
Okay,
Thank
see you
you,
next time.
Sally.
Take
Bye-bye.
care.
Bye
Bye.
now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.